Kuo, the Middle Kingdom. China was the center of the world for centuries before the rise of Western powers. This great nation had a long history in greatness. From the unification of China under its first emperor, Shi Huangdi, to the imperial grandeur of the Forbidden City, China had demonstrated its might in technology, culture, politics, and its economy. Chinese products such as porcelain, silk, and spices were highly sought after in the West. Merchants brought these prized goods through what was known as the Silk Road. It's a 5,000-year-old trading route which traversed the Middle East and Europe through Central Asia. These traders had not only brought immense wealth to the Chinese, but also philosophies that were to change the lives of many of the Chinese people. Among them, other Muslim traders who began arriving in China in the late 7th century. As Islamic traders advanced in their seafaring abilities, they began to hew an alternate silk route by sea. Muslim merchants not only conducted business, they also spread their faith along the trade winds. With more than 1.5 billion population, China has a tremendous cultural diversity few countries can rival. China had embraced Islam since the 7th century. Today, there are about 30 million Muslims in China. Its geographical location stretching from the Central Asia in the west to the Pacific Ocean in the east has created a unique blend of cultures with their own rich heritage. The freedom of religion in China meant that Muslims can practice freely their daily obligation and can have their own economic, education, and culture. Many mosques in China are used to continue this Islamic heritage so that Islam continues to thrive in China. It is understood that China began to receive Islam immediately after the death of the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century. Our journey into Islamic China begins on the ancient Silk Road, where Muslim traders formulated their plans to spread Islam out of Mecca. Because of the Silk Road, many cities prospered in Central Asia. These cities were important trading posts. Today, cities such as Samarkand, Chimkent, and Kashgar maintain their importance, although in a different way. Islam in China reached its peak during the Abbasid and Umayyad dynasty, which ruled most of the Middle East and Persia. From the Middle East, Islam spread to the Central Asian countries now comprised of former Soviet Union republics, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan. Besides being an important transit point for Islam's spread to China, Central Asian republics also contributed to the diverse minority groups in Western China. The Kazakh, Kyrgyz, and Uzbek cultures thrive in this region along with the locals such as Uyghur and Han. One fine example for the mix of Central Asian cultures and ethnic groups can be seen in ancient cities such as Kashgar and Xi'an. Kashgar has grown over the centuries as a trading post. Today, this ancient city continues to thrive as a military outpost for Western China. Despite being a transit for traders for many centuries, Kashgar was shut from visitors outside China during the Cultural Revolution in China from 1966 to 1979. Isolation from the rest of Islamic world not only resulted in bringing little changes in Kashgar, it has also preserved its cultural past. Without the revolutionary intervention, the Arabic script had become widely accepted and sits side by side with the Chinese characters. Kashgar's Islamic history can be traced back to the 10th century, when Sultan Bugela Khan, under the Kara Khan dynasty from Turkey, ruled this region. The city is home to the ethnic group Uyghur, or simply called Hui. Another major ethnic group in Kashgar is Han. The Huis and the Hans are from the same stock, except the Huis are almost always Muslims. Abu Khairi is a typical Uyghur. The Uyghurs are predominantly farmers. Abu Khairi works in his farm and sells his produce for a modest income. The Uyghur is a close-knit community. It is common to see neighbors helping each other. Abu Khairi House is one of the examples of this strong bond. It was built 10 years ago with the help of the community in the area. Like most Uyghur houses, it features a courtyard to keep the interiors cool. The wall is adorned with paintings that adopt a landscape theme. Kashgar derived its name from Mahmud Kashgari, a Turk who was famous for writing the Turkish-Chinese dictionary. Mahmud was born in 1047, and after he left school, he traveled to Central Asia to study the languages and cultures of the various ethnic groups. He also traveled to Baghdad, where he wrote his famous Turkish dictionary. It was a manuscript of cultures, biology, astrology, and literature. He spent 25 years in Baghdad and died at the age of 97. The works of Mahmud ensured that the Uyghur culture survived. His works showed the unique heritage of the Hui and their impact of Islam on the Xinjiang region and their relationship with the present-day Kashgar. Although some part of Uyghur culture resembled other Central Asian cultures, Uyghur remains a unique and distinct ethnic group. The death of Mahmud was indeed a great loss to Kashgar. Another artifact that signifies this culture can be seen in Ahmad Khoja tomb. The building is made of clay, measuring 25 meters by 29 meters and has a 26-meter minaret. Ahmad Khoja was a famous missionary and scholar during the time of Mahmud Kashgari. The tomb was also where his family members were buried. Some of his family members buried here include Yusuf, Yahya, Burhanuddin, and Karamatullah, and Hidayatul. The family was from the Baishan tribe. Some of the family members, such as Imran Khan, had even been appointed as government officials during the Qing dynasty, serving the Emperor Qianlong. The tomb and mosque complex is the biggest building of this kind in Central Asia. Another example of the rich Hui culture can be seen in the Ishkar Mosque. It was built in 1426 by a Tarakan leader, but it was only in 1788 that the mosque area was rebuilt. A woman business leader, Guilina, had donated money for the mosque. In 1801, a businessman donated a 40-hectare plot of land and planted trees around its neighborhood. In 1826, the mosque's minaret and hostel complex were constructed. The complex was hit badly by an earthquake in 1900, but was restored by the local people. The Ishkar Mosque is currently protected under the United Nations Heritage List. One of the ancient activities still practiced in Kashgar is pottery making. A good example of this craft can be found in Hudan Shaizen. In ancient days, making pottery was an important activity and was one of the goods traded in this area. Today, this practice remains unchanged. This district is known for its best clay craft in Kashgar. Much of the wares can be seen in the famous Kashgar Bazaar. The importance of Kashgar as a trading post is still evident now. The bazaar opens early with traders displaying their wares for the early birds. Perhaps in the old days, it was the same. Even the traders look very much alike. As in the ancient days, traders comprised the various ethnic groups who came to Kashgar due to its central location. Currently, people from Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Pamir Highland and Kazakhstan use this bazaar to exchange goods. In fact, very little has changed about this bazaar from the time when the Silk Road was the main trading route in the continent. Old items such as tea, herbs and spices are still traded here, but now people come here to get some of their daily needs. For visitors, the bazaar is a haven for locally produced souvenir items such as silk and daggers worn by the local people. It is indeed the best place to experience the crossroads of cultures. For people visiting China, Kashgar is special because it is truly the biggest, most complete Islamic experience in China. The nimble fingers of Haji Yahya traced his calligraphy in steady strokes. Every stroke is guided by a concentrated, experienced mind. Through his art, he acknowledges the majesty of his creator. He works and praises, stroking prayer verses in every stroke. Each curve reflects the continuity of the Muslim heritage in China. Xi'an is Shanxi's capital, situated in central China. Xi'an spans an area of nearly 10,000 square kilometers, supporting a population of about 6 million inhabitants. The city's name, Xi'an, has been used since 1369, during the reign of the Ming emperors. Before this, Xi'an was known as Zhang'an, meaning the tranquil city. The name Zhang'an was used for nearly 16 centuries, since the Han Dynasty to the beginning of the Ming Dynasty. The Drum Tower is one of the most prominent landmarks of Xi'an. Built during the Ming Dynasty, this tower was originally a military outpost from which soldiers could sound an early warning signal of any invasion. Today, the fully restored Drum Tower has become a popular tourist attraction in this historical city. Xi'an is also known to the world for its terracotta warriors. It has been claimed as one of the wonders of the world. These life-size figures were made from terracotta clay during the reign of Emperor Shi Tuangti, the famous ruler of the Qin dynasty. This archaeological site, situated in Lingdong district, 35 kilometers from Xi'an, was accidentally found in 1974 by a group of farmers who were digging up a well. Yang Jifa, the farmer who unearthed the terracotta treasures, is now a hero to the locals. Xi'an was once the capital of 13 Chinese dynasties spanning a period of 1,062 years. During the Ming Dynasty, Emperor Ming Hongwu built this wall to protect Xi'an from invaders. The location of Xi'an, at virtually the center of mainland China, made it a strategic city. Xi'an was where the Silk Road began. It provided the natural ground for interaction between Muslim Arab traders and the local people, thus introducing Islam to China. Out of the 6 million inhabitants, about 130,000 are Muslims. They come from about 10 ethnic groups, a majority of whom are the Huis. In Xi'an, the Muslim inhabitants are estimated at about 53,000 people. The Huis and the Hans are from the same ethnic group. The only difference is that the Huis are Muslims, while the Hans are not. The Huis and the Hans share a common language, culture, and practice, except in religion. This is the Muslim commercial hub situated at Huaju Lane. An estimated 500 Muslim food stalls and restaurants are opened here. In a country where the Muslims are a minority, the problem of finding halal food is a common one. However, in Huaju Lane, The natives have been buying and selling halal food for ages. Muslim tourists have the opportunity to enjoy halal traditional delicacies without any qualms. The halal logo is displayed to make it easy for tourists to recognize a halal Muslim food shop. In the 1950s, halal traditional recipes from the district began to flourish. This led to the publication of books such as the Chinese Halal Recipes, the Hui's Cooking Book, the Complete Lamb Cooking, and the Beijing Snack. These publications revealed halal recipes that were popular within certain Muslim ethnic groups. Apart from the Huis, other Muslim tribes in China are the Urugus, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, Uzbeks, Tatars, Salars, Bawans, and Dongxians. You can also find halal butcheries here. One of the Xi'an delicacies is Yang Rou Ao Mo. It is a dish of breadcrumbs immersed in lamb soup. The Hui and Urugu chefs were the ones responsible for promoting kebab among the non-Muslims. Huaju Lane is also popular among the local people and the tourists because here is also situated the Grand Mosque of Xi'an. It is a famous monument to the local Muslims. There are 17 mosques in Xi'an, and the mosque at Huaju Lane is the biggest. Meet Haji Yahya Ma Yipin, the second Imam of Xi'an's Grand Mosque. Haji Yahya started studying Islam earnestly when he was 19 years old. He learned the basics of Islam at home and at the local mosques. A fluent Arabic speaker, he has studied in famous Islamic universities in various places, including Medina. Haji Yahya is also finely skilled in calligraphy. He writes the Arabic script with Chinese tint. Haji Yahya showed us his skill by finishing the Bismillahir Rahman calligraphy in about 1 minute only. Haji Yahya usually sells his work for a minimum price. However, for us, they are free. It is a gift to seal the friendship between Muslims from two different worlds. Haji Yahya also has in his possession a handwritten Quran that is more than 500 years old. It is still kept in good condition. He also keeps a 200-year-old Quran written in the local calligraphic style. He used this calligraphy as a guide when he started learning calligraphy as a child. He had inherited these two tombstones from his ancestors. All the Quran verses had remained intact. They were also translated into Chinese. Haji Yaya's house was situated behind his shop. According to the local tradition, guests have to be warmly entertained, especially when they had come from afar and were of the same religion. After finishing his Sharia studies and passing his examinations with flying colors, the government offered him the post of Imam at this grand mosque. He is also a teacher here. Haji Yaya's mother is 95 years old, and nothing can make a mother happier than having a God-fearing child. Her eyes reflect the hope that Islam will continue to be at the bosom of Chinese Muslims from generation to generation. The Xi'an Grand Mosque is one of the biggest and oldest mosques in China. It is one of the primary sources of education in the country, providing religious classes to children and the youth. Islamic classes here are unique because of their education system takes into account points of culture, language, and the local dialects. The Xi'an Grand Mosque is also known as the Great Mosque, the Donga Mosque, and also the Huaji Mosque. At a glance, it is obvious that Xi'an Grand Mosque fuses elements of Arabic Islam with Chinese imperial architecture. It was built during the Tang Dynasty. However, the true date of its establishment, whether in the 7th or 8th century AD, cannot be determined. Nevertheless, the popular opinion is that it was originally built in 742 AD. Its prayer hall, which can house 1,000 worshippers at any one time, encompasses an area of 30,000 square meters. According to the locals, an emperor of the Ming dynasty gave an edict in 1392. We have proclaimed that every Muslim family will be given 50 silver ingots and 100 bales of silk. They will be moved to 2 regions with the building of 2 mosques, one in Sanshan Road in Nanjing City and the other one in Jiwu Lane in Xi'an City. They can rebuild them if ever the mosques fall to disrepair, and nobody is allowed to go against this edict. The Xi'an Grand Mosque, one of China's most recognized historical buildings, is still intact, even though it was erected more than 1,200 years ago. This is because it was periodically restored during the Song, Ming, and Qing dynasties. It continues to be taken care of until today. This 3-story octagonal minaret is the Grand Mosque's highest structure. It was built during the Ming dynasty. This mosque is one of the finest examples of Islamic architecture in China. The design of this mosque provides a peaceful and tranquil feeling to worshippers. These monuments record the histories of the construction of this mosque. The inscription on one of these monuments dated 1405 Hijra contains an announcement of Haji Sai, a descendant of Shihab al-Din. It provides a proper mention of the emperor who built a mosque in the city of Chang'an. Our visit to Xi'an makes us appreciate the wisdom of Allah. He has created humankind in various ethnic groups with different cultures so that they can meet and get to know and appreciate one another. Nothing signifies China's formidable past as accurately as the Great Wall of China, constructed some 1,500 years ago. For many years, China was also closed to visitors. Some buildings in China, such as the Forbidden City in Beijing, were only open to the public in recent years. For many people, China is such a mystery, and therein lies its intrigue that has attracted many visitors into China. Welcome to Beijing, the capital of the People's Republic of China. Since China reopened its doors to foreign visitors, tourists flock to Beijing as their first destination in China to see the many ancient artifacts. One of the most popular landmarks is the Tiananmen Square. It can accommodate 500,000 people at any one time. This is a Great Wall in Badaling, one of the 7 wonders of the world. The Forbidden City was once a palace, but now it is a historical palace museum. There are 11 million people living in Beijing, comprising 56 ethnic groups. The Muslims are a minority here. There are currently 250,000 Muslims who live in an area called New Ji Wei. This area is known for its halal food and mosques. The place has been a Muslim enclave for more than 1,000 years. Today, New Ji is packed with Muslim houses and small shops selling provisions. It has become easier to find Muslim restaurants and foods here as there are more than 2,000 of them. Muslims open shops in every corner to cater to the Muslim population in Beijing. The New Ji Mosque is the center for the Muslim community. Every week on Fridays, thousands of people throng to the mosque. This shows that Islam has remained strong and is still practiced here. The New Ji Mosque was built in 926 AD during the Song dynasty. It features the distinctive colors of red, gold and blue that is evocative of that era. In Beijing alone, there are a total of 68 mosques and 100 imams. Beijing has been recognized as a center for Islamic education in China. It is clear that for Islam to flourish, a deeper understanding of the faith is needed, and this can only be accomplished through education.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Islam began infiltrating China at the end of the 7th century. It was between the end of the Sung dynasty and the beginning of the Yuan dynasty when Islam became an accepted part of the lives of the people of China. After the Qing dynasty lost control of imperial China, Shanghai was opened to the West in 1843. Alongside the European powers that arrived to exploit the wealth of the land, Muslim missionaries also came to strengthen their relations with the local inhabitants. The most frequented mosque during that time was Jia Tao Wan Mosque, built in the 18th century. It remains one of the largest mosques still in use among Shanghai Muslims. It is a fairly new mosque in contrast to the one in Songjian, about 2 hours' drive from Shanghai. This Songjian Mosque is one of the oldest mosques in China. According to the local people, there were two views on the mosque's origin. One was that the Yuan dynasty emperor Ji Qing, who ruled from 1341 to 1368, appointed a Muslim magistrate, Nasaruddin, to this region. It was this judge who had built the mosque. However, the more popular view was that Muslim soldiers who were sent by the emperor to defend his empire built the mosque for their own use as well as for the local people. The mosque had continually been renovated numerous times. With each renovation, new elements were added. These include calligraphic inscriptions that decorated many parts of the mosque. Islamic scholars acknowledge that the Songjian Mosque remains the best example of a mosque built during the Yuan dynasty. That era was also considered the golden age of Islam in China. Yunnan Province. This region of China is inhabited by many ethnic minorities. These include the people of Yi, Lao, Bai, and Tibetan descent, who make up about 4% of China's population. The capital of Yunnan is Kunming. This city was believed to have been founded by a Muslim magistrate, Shamsuddin, from Bukhara. However, this cannot be verified. The most popular mosque here is the Sun Chen Mosque. It was built during the Ming Dynasty 400 years ago. The Ming Dynasty was considered the golden age of Chinese art and culture, and therefore the architecture of this mosque reflected the artistry of this dynastic era. But more important than the aesthetic value of its architecture, the mosque had also actively advocated education as the most important cornerstone of the faith. Even today, it has a bilingual syllabus, offering studies in Islamic history and Islamic law in both the Chinese and Arabic languages. It is no wonder that, with a foundation in Islamic vision, this region had become the bedrock for one of China's most prominent figures in diplomacy, Admiral Cheng Ho. "60 kilometers from Kunming in 1371, Ma He was born. After serving under Emperor Yonghi, he was renamed Zheng Ho. Zheng was a name that the emperor ordained only upon his most respected military men. Emperor Yonghi instructed the admiral to forge diplomatic ties with nations around the world. In 1405, he led his first mission with a royal armada of 62 ships manned by 30,000 sailors. Over a period of 28 years, he had led 7 missions to more than 40 nations across the globe, including today's Egypt, Greece, Iran, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and some scholars even believed he was the first voyager to reach the Americas. Admiral Zheng Ho died in 1435 at the age of 64 in his homeland. A memorial was built in his honor on top of Yuncheng Hill in 1623. During his lifetime, he had forged alliances with many nations. His mission was not to conquer the lands he visited, but to conquer the hearts of the people. Guilin is the capital city of Guangxi Autonomous Region. It is founded along the Lijiang or Li River. Traversing along its placid flow, it is no wonder that for thousands of years, Guilin has been romanticized in art and poetry.
梦幻中的桂林啊，漓江似一桥清秀蜿蜒的绸带，奇峰峻山汇聚了优美缠绵俊秀，一幅幅极静的风景画。山中有水，水中有山，自古桂林山水甲天下。我遥望的心，我满腔的情，我的美妙的遐思，都寄予给桂林的山水。人间梦幻的仙境啊，感知万能真主的造化。
Allah be praised for creating Guilin. It is worth a closer look. Along the banks of Lijiang, the jagged rocks veil a wonder the locals call a natural palace of art, the Lidi Cave. It is indeed a sight to behold. There are 22 mosques in Guilin. The most famous is the Guilin Mosque. It was originally built in the 13th century but renovated many times, the last renovation being in 1994. It is the oldest mosque in Guangxi province. Like the mosque in Shanghai, the Guilin Mosque was also built by the emperor's soldiers. In 1944, Japanese soldiers destroyed a great part of it, but 3 years later the local Muslims restored it. Today, Guilin is the center of the Islamic Society of China. This has led to other mosques in Guilin gaining more prominence in China. The Zhongzhanlu Mosque was built during the Qing dynasty on a 1,300 square meter plot of land. The architectural style differs slightly from the older mosque. It has been declared a historical building by the United Nations, and today it is still able to hold 200 worshippers at any one time. Guangzhou is a main gateway for trade in southern China. This was where Islam first came by sea during the Tang dynasty. Today, it is a bustling cosmopolitan city that reflects the melting pot of its different cultures and ethnic groups. It is clear that Guangzhou has not changed from the time when trade with the Arab Muslims was at its peak. Although the merchandise has evolved with the times, the atmosphere still rings with the commercial buzz of old. This has been identified as the site of the original Guangzhou port. The placid ramparts belie its former glory, but during its heydays, Guangzhou was said to be the haven of traders from all over the world. At any one time, there had been 50,000 locals and 100,000 foreign merchants. This is also where a memorial to Sa'ad ibn Wahaz, a companion of the Prophet, was erected. Sa'ad ibn Wahaz was sent to lead the mission to China after the death of the Prophet. The local people claimed that it is the tomb of the Prophet's companion, the only one in China. But scholars affirmed that Sa'ad ibn Wahaz had died in Medina, so the tomb's verity cannot be determined. However, the exact date of Islam's arrival in China has been documented. 25th of August, 651 AD. Sa'ad ibn Wahaz had arrived during the reign of Emperor Taizong of the Tang dynasty. It was said that the missionaries had arrived by invitation of the emperor who had heard of the Muslims' benediction. The Wei Jianxi Mosque was built in the mid-7th century and is the oldest mosque in China. The name means longing for the Prophet, because Sa'ad ibn Wahaz had built it just after the Prophet died. The records show that the Chinese imperial government had funded the construction of the mosque. It is clear that the Muslims had gained favor of the emperor, although the Islamic faith was unfamiliar to the Chinese at that time. The tower has remained unchanged since it was first built 13 centuries ago. It had an Arabic design, whilst other minarets in mosques around China adopted the pagoda design. The tower is called the Guangta, or Shining Tower, perhaps not only for its gleaming white exterior, but also for the exemplary lives of the Muslims who worshipped at the mosque. At one time, the minaret was the highest point in Guangzhou. Here is where we learned that, regardless of how diverse the culture, how distant the land, how turbulent the times, when hearts meet on the same principle of faith, the unity can penetrate even the heart of the Middle Kingdom.